Hi everyone, it's Hans here, the founder of Cappuccino, and welcome to this latest episode of Flat Whites and Insights, a podcast created to allow a space for open, honest and vulnerable conversations with real people, all over a beautiful cup of coffee. We're here in my home, so I'll be providing the flat whites, and my guests, they'll be providing the insights. So grab a coffee for yourselves, take a moment, and I hope you enjoy this latest conversation. Thank you, take care, and enjoy. Jass, hi.
Hi!
Thanks so much for wanting to join me here
Thank you
in
for having
Oxfordshire.
me.
Your first visit?
My first visit to Oxfordshire.
First visit to the Shire.
To the Shire.
No, it's really cool that you kind of saw that I was doing this and reached out and wanted to come on, and that's amazing. I know we followed each other on Instagram for a while. We were just saying before we hit record about we're both actually at London Coffee Festival, and even saying that there's so many people that you know their Instagram name or you kind of think they're familiar face, but you
don't know their name.
You don't know their name, so no, it's cool to connect this way. But for myself and for people watching, listening, you like to give a brief introduction about maybe what you saw in this podcast that maybe made you want to come on?
I think the one thing that stood out to me is obviously I've followed you for quite a while anyway. I've been quite vulnerable with my struggles and mental health on Instagram generally, so to have someone like start a podcast all about coffee and mental health, it was kind of the perfect thing of me being like, that's what I want to be on.
Yeah, that's what you want to be on. I think I remember you saying,
the goal.
I'm your gal.
I'm your gal.
So that was the message, and I've seen obviously keep touching your Instagram a little bit and seen some of the kind of things that maybe you've experienced, but what has that looked like for you then in terms of mental health? I mean, it's quite we're going straight in.
But
I know it can be, everyone's got a unique experience, everyone's got a unique story. But.
So it's a very bizarre one in a sense that I never really saw myself as kind of a person that wanted to live, and that sounds really dramatic, but up until kind of last year I was in just kind of a very negative headspace. I was never looking for the positives. I never saw what I wanted to do with my life. I never kind of saw a way out of the mindset that I was in, and it's only kind of in the last year or so that I have kind of worked through my mindset in that sense. I've found spirituality, I do gratitude a lot, and I've just kind of changed my life around, and it's been wonderful to actually see the part of that and how beautiful life can be. Like I actually can say that I want to live now, and it's just, that's quite wonderful, because that's never really happened for me before. Like it's been about 10 years of feeling very negative and suicidal and depressed and all sorts. So it's just a complete kind of 360 in the way that I'm feeling now. That, it's been a journey. But it's, my mindset has just completely changed, and it's just quite lovely to want to live.
No, amazing. No, and it's something that is so amazing. I can see even you kind of saying that to me now, and how like you can just see like you're smiling, like you genuinely like can see. And I think it is so true that sometimes they say like you know you need the rain to appreciate the sun and all those kind of like quotes, but when I think, or for myself, having been through dark times and similar times when I had no appetite for life, and I think that's almost what you were maybe describing there a little bit. That is how I heard it mentioned by someone, and it really related to me. I just didn't have an appetite. It's really hard to want to live today when you see no reason for tomorrow.
Exactly.
And I have been in moments like that. And so when you've experienced that, it's almost, you say about spirituality, maybe like almost an awakening, being like...
It was
there's so much to life that maybe I hadn't been appreciating. And then it's wonderful to...
That's the thing, like as soon as I kind of changed my mindset, and like the biggest thing that's helped me is gratitude in that sense, like just looking for the small things. And I remember like the first day that I sat down to do gratitude, and it was literally like, I'm grateful for still being alive despite it all. I'm grateful for having a roof over my head. I'm grateful for having food that I can just go and eat. And it was just little things like that. And then as soon as I started doing that, it was kind of a snowball effect of like, I saw so many more things that I was grateful for. And yeah, I still continue that practice every day. And
Amazing.
it's just kind of been such a wonderful thing to just appreciate the small things, which sounds really cliche, but
it does.
it
But
is.
it's true,
Yeah.
and I think it's maybe sounds cliche, and it's a bit of a knock-off term to maybe people who don't appreciate the small things that much, and they see it like, oh, just appreciating the small things, da da da. But actually, or this morning even before you came over, like I went out, got like a morning coffee, pastry, and I just partner was having a bit of a lie-in, but I just went out. Brought the pastry home. See, I can be a good egg. Brought the pastry home, but no, I just sat and enjoyed my own, just on the river, in the sun, and just little things like that. Yeah, little things like the fresh air and enjoying a nice coffee. And in time, that's such a world away from where I was about 6 years ago. It was for me when I was 22, which is when I was kind of at my lowest.
Yeah.
But so yeah, gratitude. You mentioned that, so I've noticed on your stories, kind of a lot most days.
Most days.
It's, and I guess whether you post it or not, it's almost but it's interesting. Do you, in terms of posting it, is that for yourself almost accountability to get out of that, or just more if people are following you and they just a reminder of the importance of gratitude?
It's a massive thing to do with accountability. That really helped me in the beginning. Like I was doing it every day in the beginning, like posting on Instagram, and I was getting quite like a good response from like people that wouldn't usually kind of reach out to me or reply to my stories and stuff like that. And it just again started a conversation. Like I used to post daily affirmations on Instagram, and again that would start a conversation of people that usually wouldn't reach out to me would reach out to me and be like, I needed to hear this today. And that was just a really wonderful feeling, and that kind of kept me going. Right now I've kind of taken a little bit of a step back from posting it every day, just because obviously my work schedule's a bit all over the place. I start work at like 6:30 in the morning sometimes, so it's a bit, some mornings I'm like, no. But most days I will post on Instagram, and it's just such a lovely thing because a lot of people don't know about gratitude and writing things down and how you can just appreciate like the little things. So it's just quite nice to kind of be able to start a conversation about it, because I think spirituality as well is still a bit of a woo-woo thing to talk about things like that. So it's just, it's kind of, again, snowballed from there really. And again, I've met so many more amazing people because of it. So it's just been quite lovely.
Amazing. And as you say, it's for yourself. And I love the fact, even though you said like some mornings it's, I've got an early work start, and so maybe I won't post it, but it's then not, it's okay. It's just, I think some people maybe they might start something like that and they're like, I've got to do it every day, and then you maybe start to beat yourself up if you miss one. I know I'm maybe not with journaling and such, but if I every now and again I'm like, I've got to get healthy, I'm going to start running, I'm going to get on my exercise bike, and then I say I'll do it 3 times a week. I miss the first couple and I get so frustrated with myself.
Yeah, it was like that in the beginning. Like I started missing a few days and I'd really like kind of feel guilty and beat myself up about it. And then I kind of took a step back and I was like, why though? Like I'm posting this for me. It's, it's not, yes, it is accountability in that sense, but also I don't need to post it every day. Social media isn't, my life. And as much as I do want to build an online business with my blog and stuff like that, it's not the end if I don't post for 1 or 2 days.
And that's something like Cappuccino, obviously, again, I find the same. When I was first setting it up, and I wasn't working when I first set it up, so I've kind of touched on it in previous episodes, but I was off work with my mental health, and I just needed like a purpose, and so at that point I really threw myself into it. Was posting, there were times I was posting probably 2-3 times a day.
That's commitment.
And that was a lot. But then that was at the time all I saw that I was giving to the world, or that was my purpose as such, which I still feel it is. But now obviously I'm working full time and managed to get myself kind of back into work, and it's something I want to keep alongside. But again, that not feeling a pressure if it starts to feel like work, or if it starts to feel like it's draining me rather than giving me energy, then I don't get any income from it. I don't get any. So there's not really pressure to keep it going. The only pressure will be from myself.
Yeah.
Thinking, and I know as I say that, obviously starting the podcast, and I'm wary that there's going to be 10 episodes in this first series, and I'm recording them all in a couple of months.
Yeah.
And they're kind of, some conversations will be a bit heavy, deep. So I'm just wary. I need to, after this first 10, I'm probably going to need a bit of a break. So
yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to then put pressure on myself. I have to keep this up, because it would be so hypocritical to be, self-care is not selfish. Let's talk about mental health while I'm putting myself in a worse position.
Absolutely.
To put out content, which at the end of the day, you've got to be real with it as well.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's what I try and be on my page. If I'm having a bit of a rough day, then I'm gonna maybe be honest about that and post it. I don't journal as such, but I think the page and the feed was my almost digital one.
Absolutely.
And it's quite a public one, but almost if I need to get something off my chest or something, like, not everything, obviously there's certain things that are private and we keep that private, but it's a space that once I've posted it, it almost feels like I'm not carrying that by myself now.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. It's out
That's
there.
the thing, just even like typing it out or writing it down, like it can feel like such a weight lifted off your shoulders, and that's what
even
I
if you
really
don't
love
post
about
it.
Exactly, even if you don't post it, like I've got so many notes on my phone just filled with like random thoughts, and it just feels really nice to just get it out of your head and see it on a page, because you can go back to that and be like, oh, that wasn't as big of a deal as I thought it was in the moment. It was just how I was feeling. So that's what I really love about kind of journaling and writing stuff down, just generally.
And just seeing your own journey and how you've grown over time, and seeing where you were to where you are.
Yeah,
Which is
it's
really
like
cool.
in the last year I've gone through about 3 journals, I think I'm on my third, and I go back to like my first one and I'm like, oh, you were so sad, like but like it's nice to see like my journey, because I've journaled throughout the whole of like me wanting to live, and me kind of getting a therapist and how I've dealt with that and everything like that. So it's just been really nice to kind of have like a written thing of my journey, because I don't think I'd remember it otherwise.
No, I don't think you would, and I think it's so true. And like you say, that remembering it or giving yourself credit for where you've come from.
Yeah.
Because that's, I find I'm really bad at that sometimes. I'll be wanting to do this and this, or feeling, oh, why don't I feel happy today? I've done all this work, and why don't I still get days, obviously, when you feel like pretty low and there isn't an appetite for life. But then I'm like, oh, okay, this almost remembering or looking back at maybe posts, or just trying to remember where I came from, where almost that would have been the norm, and a day where I felt a little bit of a buzz or a little bit of energy would have been the one that was the rare day. So just remembering where we come from.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
So so that's thank you for that. Where you said about mental health and coffee.
Yes.
And where we've got this coffee here.
Amazing.
So let's pour some coffee.
Absolutely.
This is a bit different to the other episodes, but we were so keen to get into the conversation that we had to go. So I'll just pour this, and it's not a flat white. I know it's flat whites and insights, but
It's all right. It's all good.
cafetiere and insights doesn't rhyme.
Can't beat
so.
it.
But no, so you mentioned that coffee is a big passion of yours, a big interest. I've seen from your Instagram, your latte art. It's a lot better than mine. So when did your journey with coffee start, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, goodness. So it's actually, in December this year, it will be 10 years I've been in coffee. Okay. Which is a terrifying prospect.
Yeah.
It was actually my first proper job. I actually started in Costa before it got really terrible. Just to clarify, it used to be okay.
She said that, not me, Costa.
It used to be generally okay, and that's kind of where I started kind of research on coffee. Like, I'd never kind of been into coffee. I think my first ever coffee, don't judge me for this, my first coffee was a 1-shot caramel latte, and that was how I kind of got introduced to coffee.
My first coffee was on a plane.
Oh, interesting.
Which is
choice.
interesting choice. Yeah, and so sorry, we'll go back to yours. But I just thought when you mentioned first coffee, and I'm thinking now that could be a good question to ask you. When was your first coffee? But so I was going on, like school exchange trips. And so we were going to France, and I was flying out by myself to stay with like a family. And I was probably 13, 14 maybe. I can't remember the exact age. But because I was flying by myself and I was like, I'm a grown up. They came around with a cart. I was like, well, I can't order a Coke or something like that, I don't know. So I was like, oh, just a coffee, please. And I just ordered it because I wanted to seem grown up, which is ridiculous because I was sat there with my PSP, playing on it or something. And then, I had it and I actually kind of enjoyed it. I don't know if I'd enjoy plain coffee now. Depends on the...
It depends.
But no, so when you say interesting, that was my first coffee.
Amazing.
But yeah, it didn't have any caramel in it or anything.
Yeah,
So
no.
I started just on the pure, the good stuff.
Yeah, I don't think I could taste any of the coffee, it being one
sugar.
shot as well. It was just pure sugar milk, just with a hint of caffeine.
Yeah, just gave you the caffeine without the...
Yeah. But yeah, as I started kind of being trained as a barista, I kind of delved more into coffee and kind of the differences in coffee. Like, I think that was kind of where I got kind of stuck into it. I researched as much as I could, and then I came across latte art.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my main goal in Costa. Sorry, brand standards of Costa. Definitely broke that. But I just kind of practiced latte art, and I found that, not to big myself up, but I was really good at it. And so I just kind of practiced and practiced. I was learning different patterns, I was doing swans, tulips, kind of rosettas, things like that. I was doing hanging hearts. And then a connection kind of came up to specialty coffee.
Yeah.
And I went for it, basically. I'd spent 3 years at Costa and I was like, it's time for a change.
Yeah.
I'm going to delve into the world of specialty coffee. And for the last kind of 7 years, that's where I've been. I've moved around quite a lot of cafes and things like that. I've kind of worked in a lot of cafes. Yeah. Some good, some bad.
Yeah. But that's like with any work,
exactly.
any line of work, you're gonna get that, aren't you?
Yeah.
So it's probably stuff you picked up from those.
Exactly. I've learnt lessons from every kind of coffee shop that I've been in.
What to do, what not to do, how to treat staff, how not to treat staff.
Exactly.
We could talk about that in coffee. I know that's quite a big thing. I've never actually worked in coffee myself, so I've kind of come to it through the home barista kind of avenue. So very different, but I know there's quite a thing in like the hospitality industry. I know there's so and has that mostly been barista jobs?
Yes, so it's only kind of the last couple of years that I've been like a manager of places. But again, I do enjoy just making coffee and making latte art, which is just a very minute part of the job, but it's the bit that I enjoy the most. I love, like, in the job that I'm in currently, I do like little teddy bear hot chocolates for kids, and just like seeing the joy on their faces, like it's just so wonderful. And then people will come in and be like, "Can I have a Jass special?" I'm like, absolutely, you can.
No, that's amazing, and it's that connection as well with people. You get to the regulars, shall we say, or feel a part of the community, and it's a big thing with. I know we were again talking before hit record about Francesca's episode, which. She's kind of set up like Coffee Aloud, and she dialed in from Croatia, which is really cool. And she said a big part of her brand, or what she wants to do, is it's just that when you think about coffee, even if you don't actually drink coffee, it's, a coffee shop is a place where people can come and connect, and a moment in the day when you can maybe meet new people or bring that little bits of joy, like you said.
Exactly.
They can, because you probably really enjoy pouring the teddy bear, and then you see the reaction from the kid, and that just adds to it, and that's amazing. And it's things like not many jobs maybe where you feel you can get that instant kind of, you can see the it's like instant gratification in a way, or instant reward of the work you put in. You see the benefit of it, and you see the game, whereas otherwise you can, certain people in certain jobs you feel like you're working, and you don't actually ever see the reaction of the customer or the person who comes in. So it's amazing what
it's really nice
what coffee can do. But I've just kind of thought of a question now as we've been kind of chatting about that. So obviously you mentioned that you've been working in coffee for a long time.
Yeah.
What was the pandemic like working in that?
Oh.
We'll have to get those journals out. And we'll be
The pandemic was really tough. So I was working in a very small village at the time, in a coffee shop that became incredibly busy overnight. It was, we had never been busy like we were during the pandemic. We were one of the only kind of coffee shops that were open in the area, and it's quite a popular walking spot.
Okay.
So we were like, when I tell you I've never made so many coffees in my life.
Yeah. It was...
Obviously it was all takeaway, so latte art was kind of out the window. It was just kind of pour and get it out. But it was really challenging. The one thing I'd say about the pandemic and working in a coffee shop during the pandemic was that it brought out both the best of people and the worst of people. Like, I have never been treated so poorly by customers like I did during the pandemic.
Okay.
And that was really interesting to see, kind of.
In what kind of ways?
Just
if you don't, like, what, having to wait for their coffee, or...
Yeah, and like verbal abuse from people, really. Like, people would be like, oh, why aren't you open for sit-in? And we'd be like, there's a global pandemic going on.
It's not quite your decision, is it? It's like,
no.
Oh, sorry, I'll just get on the phone to Mr. Whitty and just ask him if
Exactly.
I can open. Yeah.
People obviously being impatient. Like, we had quite a good system going on. Like, we serve one person, they'd then stand and wait outside. We then had like a number system going on where we'd shout out the number, but then obviously that got confusing because people would be like, oh, I don't know what number it is. Oh, I've thrown my ticket in the bin. Like,
Must be my coffee.
Exactly.
And trying to jump it.
Yeah. So it definitely brought out the best and the worst in people, but it was a very challenging time, and my mental health definitely took a kick for it.
No, yeah, I can imagine. And it's interesting that almost, when I asked that question, that wasn't the answer I expected.
Yeah.
When you were saying, like, oh, it was really busy, I was almost expecting the opposite. Or, but you know, with certain places, people were furloughed or people were shut and stuff. But I guess because within one industry, there can be such different.
I think I was furloughed for about 3 weeks.
Okay.
And then we set up a kind of grocery delivery system as well, because we were in such a small village that there was a lot of elderly people that couldn't get access to things, and through our suppliers we were able to get things like pasta and eggs and toilet rolls. We kind of not took advantage of that, but we wanted to help the community in that way. Like, we deliver fruit and veg boxes to people and things like that. And there's one situation that's just come to mind actually. We were selling toilet roll in the shop.
Oh, that was at one point, that was, you know, that was gold, wasn't it?
Absolutely. And I remember this woman coming up and was like, I'll take your entire stock of toilet roll. And we were like, there's like 20 packs of toilet roll here. Like, no. And she got really, really horrible about it. The fact that we wouldn't and we were like, we'll limit it to 2 per customer. And she was like, I'm never coming here again. And we were like, okay.
Okay. Oh no, we're going to miss you so much.
It just brought out the best and the worst in people.
Yeah, and I think that is so true. And I think even with, I was working in office at the time, and then we all went to like working from home. But I think a lot of people then, even when the office kind of opened back up or things like, a lot of people just, I think, forgot basic like human interaction.
100%.
And that general manners, or, you know, smiling at people, eye contact. There was a time I remember when it was, you know, you can get your 1 hour exercise and you'd like be out on a walk with someone and I'd just go like, oh, morning or something. They'd like look down as if me looking at them was going to give them hope. Like, they just almost, and I think a lot of it though and I've spoken to friends or people who maybe never experienced like anxiety or anything before, but then suddenly it's almost like an overload when you go back out. And then it's so there's kind of that. I think people were, obviously it was a challenging time for everyone, but then just almost you do become so accustomed to your habits and what you're doing, so it almost
100%.
became the norm not to interact with people. So then it's almost going into a coffee shop, they're a bit like, oh, I don't know what to do now.
That's the thing. When we reopened for kind of sit-in, people were just so confused as to what to do, where to stand, like how to order, like things like that. And it was like almost having to teach people how to order a coffee in a cafe.
It's quite really. I mean, you could really deep it, couldn't you, on like a psychological level, like about how it kind of changed people and the times coming out, and interesting. But the hospitality must have been a challenge. And as you say, the bit you love about the job maybe was doing the latte art and stuff. So when actually it's all takeaway and you kind of lose that, and it must have been difficult, something that you know you love and is a passion, and feeling like it changed.
It did, like, and it was an overnight change. So it wasn't even like I could kind of be like, okay, well, I'll get used to it in about a week. It was just
sudden.
instantaneously overnight, and yeah, my mental health really took a kick for it, kind of during lockdown, and
And I guess that change anyway, but then with maybe not being able to see family as much or friends, or being able to do the things that maybe normally would be a kind of release from that.
Yeah, no, it was very challenging. But yeah, we're out the other side.
Yeah, we're outside. But that's
Thank God.
yeah. No, I know. That's when we actually think it was 2020. So 3 years ago
3 years.
now. All of that happened, and sometimes you kind of think, did it happen? Like
That's the thing. It's like such a fever dream.
Yeah, it is. And then when now everything's kind of back to normal, and it is strange. But then I think it's so much that still I can take from that time, and I'm trying to look at like the positives, like with I guess even like from work side of things, like the way everything became more connected, and Teams calls and Zoom and this, that, and the other, and I felt more comfortable with that, and it kind of maybe showed how much we maybe just do what we do because society makes you think that's what you should do.
Yeah.
And it kind of broke that a little bit.
100%.
Which is good, and I think a lot of people maybe had a lot of time with themselves to think, and they think. which isn't always necessarily
I was going to say that wasn't a great thing for me.
Isn't always comfortable, but I think for me that was one time where my challenges with mental health actually maybe benefited me, because I'd had that period of about 6-7 months off work when I'd had my mental health, so I was used to maybe my own company, or had kind of coping mechanisms for being at home and being in the house or alone time, and that's not something that everyone is used to. I can think certain people, working in the city and the busy jobs, and you're there, and suddenly just stopping, and it's a big change. But
when I was furloughed, I was actually living in a studio flat on my own, and I'd never had that kind of alone time before, and I really felt alone for like the first time kind of ever, really. Like it was, I'd always felt alone but not lonely in that respect, but it was those couple of weeks that I was like, wow, I can't go out and see friends. Like I'm only allowed outside for like an hour. Like it was just such a strange time. And being alone with your thoughts sometimes isn't a good thing.
No, it isn't. And I think that's the thing. It's finding that balance. I know, as you say, about gratitude and journaling, or for me, trying to get better at that. Or like say, I don't know if meditation's anything you've ever done or do. Or
I'm quite big into meditation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, it's something that, and again, maybe like when I was saying about running, and I get frustrated if I can't do it. Like I'm always thinking about something, basically.
Yeah.
Like my mind just doesn't switch. If I'm trying to go to that's why I really struggle with like say sleep or something, because my mind will, if I'm not thinking about something, it's almost like I have to find something to think about, and that's where I struggle maybe even with like meditation, or trying to. It has to be like for me guided meditation, because you try and at least you can follow like the steps, but it's so that time alone, it's like my mind is always going. But that's why sometimes even some of I think my best ideas and stuff happen at night and stuff, because I'm 100%. Trying to sleep and my brain's like firing away, and then I'll just like so I do have like a notepad like by my bed. I know some people say that, because then I can, if you wake up, you just need to get something out of your head. But time with our own thoughts is a
dangerous thing.
Dangerous thing, but it's one of those where sometimes I think it is good to sit and listen, because there's a reason maybe that if a certain thing, especially, I know thoughts are just thoughts, they can just, you don't have to attach to them, but if there's like themes or something that keeps coming up, it's almost, rather than suppress, and I don't want to hear that, which is very much what I was like as I was younger. Actually, okay, why am I thinking this? And
I think it's so different now, like even to like a year ago. I'm so okay with being alone now, and being alone with my thoughts, because that has kind of helped me on my healing journey. Like I bought a van last year and I live full time in it, and that has kind of been the most amazing thing. And I have been spending so much time alone, and I feel like during the pandemic, it was a different type of alone, because I was so.
There's almost a different one. It's choice as well. If you've chosen to do that, you're kind of taking ownership of it, and you're saying, this is what I want, and this is my decision. Whereas when you're forced into something, it's very different, isn't it? Because even that acceptance of it, and I think that's a big thing with the lockdown, where people even when it had gone, I got to a point where I kind of accepted it. I was like, yeah, this is what we're doing now, and kind of was able to accommodate. But it's when it's not your own decision.
Yeah.
People don't like to be told.
Exactly. And I think my mindset is just so different now as well. Like back in the pandemic, I was in such a negative mind space, whereas now I'm in such like a kind of high vibe mindset, if you will. So it's a completely different type of being alone. Like it is a choice now, whereas before it wasn't. It was kind of forced. You must stay at home.
Yeah, and having that choice is great. And what you say about the mindset, like I can see that even just coming off set when you like turn up, and when it was about, obviously you made the journey up from, it's like Portsmouth way, isn't it? Portsmouth.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I was like, oh, it's not too fast to travel. You're like, no, I want an adventure. Even you said like, and that's amazing. That kind of, you can see that kind of mindset, or you can see the kind of positive, as you say, wanting to see new places, explore new things, and that probably a lot of that comes from that gratitude and
100%.
the Jass of a couple of years ago, as you were saying, like would be a long way to go to meet someone who you'd never, like we've connected on Instagram.
Yeah.
But to meet him for the first time and having these conversations is it's cool. It's
wonderful.
Really amazing. Yeah, no, exactly. It's great. So something that I am aware you are kind of doing, and we haven't really touched on yet, is your blog.
Yes.
And your page or your brand is kind of like Which Bitch Barista, is that?
Yes, that's the one. So it used to be known as The Coffee Life, and then I kind of grew out of it again, like when my mindset changed, like it didn't feel like me anymore. So I kind of, the name came to me in a dream, which sounds ridiculous. And I remember like sitting up in bed and being like,
that's me.
Give me a piece of paper and a pen. And I kind of talked with my partner at the time, and it was an iffy response of being like, is this the right decision? Like, do you know what will come of it? Like, is it because it's got the word bitch in it? Is it going to look professional? Like, so it was kind of like, do I, don't I? And then on my birthday last year, I think it was, I was like, right, I'm doing this. Like, and
if it feels right to you.
Yeah. And it definitely did. Like, I have ironically had so many more opportunities because of it, and I think it stands out a lot more. Like,
you think like The Coffee Life, as you say, it was probably a good description of what you were doing, but how many blogs, how many different things are there going to be which are kind of my life in coffee, Coffee Life, whereas I've not come across anything kind of like Which Bitch Barista, anything like that. And it's a bit like, or even I think cappuccino is different. Yeah. Like, it sounds a bit like cappuccino, obviously, which is where the coffee link was. But it's just different, and I think it's something that maybe grabs people's attention.
Absolutely. And to go to London Coffee Festival this year as well as Which Bitch Barista, it was my first event as Which Bitch Barista.
Yeah.
And like, you could just see the difference of when I kind of introduced myself as The Coffee Life, whereas I introduced myself as Which Bitch Barista this year. Like, the response was just so much more like, oh my God, tell me all about it. Like, whereas The Coffee Life was kind of self-explanatory.
Yeah, especially at London Coffee Festival, like, we've all got one of those.
Yeah, exactly. And I just felt more myself with the name, and it's just kind of expanded from there, really.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So there's the blog.
Yeah.
And a little bit of kind of product stuff. I'm wearing like, I don't really know, like we were kind of saying off camera, like it's an exciting time in terms of you feel like there's things in the pipeline.
It's a very exciting time. I've got a lot of plans.
Yeah.
I'm a little exclusive. I'm going self-employed at some point towards now and the end of the year.
Yeah.
And I want to go more into kind of coffee training and things like that, and kind of really take the time to work on my blog and kind of build that as a business, as well as just being like an online space that I can just type. So it's just very exciting times ahead.
No, it sounds exciting, and it's amazing just seeing you're following, it's, your passions, what you want to do, and what brings you joy, or what you feel. I love where you said you kind of went to the coffee festival and you felt the most, like, it feels like it represents you, the brand, and it's something in a previous episode Lucy said as well, when I kind of was speaking to her, she was like, I feel the most me me that I've ever been.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's something you kind of relate to as well.
100%.
Especially having been, or I've been in those dark times, or I was doing my PhD and I was studying, I was just living this idea
Yeah.
of what I felt I had to be.
Yeah.
And actually, yeah, I can kind of relate as well. I'm like the most me that I am now, like being
Absolutely.
open, honest, vulnerable. It just feels comfortable for me.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, yeah, that it's really cool. And I think, again, with me doing the podcast or sponsoring a football team or have my own coffee with Jericho Coffee Traders, there we go. But it's, just things that I'm interested in and passions and just take it where it goes. I mean, obviously I work full time, but I work in football now as well. And that's something that, so I'm in a job and I'm in a career of something that I love.
Yeah.
And on the side, I'm doing something that I love. So I can't really complain. And I have to remember that. And actually there's days when every job has bits that, can grind you down a little bit.
Yeah.
You've got the tedious things, or when you're tired and do I really want to do that? And then sometimes I have to catch myself and be like, hang on a minute, like if 5 years ago you'd have told yourself you'll be working in football and coffee.
Yeah.
Come on, like be proud of yourself for what you've created.
100%.
And probably the same as well for yourself when to be going self-employed, it's a big step.
It's a very big
step. But again, it's your kind of completely have ownership of your life in a way.
Yeah. Like I tried to go self-employed a couple of years ago, I think it was, and because of the mindset that I was in, it didn't work out. And I kind of took a step back and was like, okay, this is still something that I want to do.
Yeah.
But this isn't the right timing. Yeah. Whereas now feels.
But even that, and you'll have gained so much from that first time. Like it's not as you say, people would say, oh, it's a failure or whatever, but it's not. It's like
I see it as
learning step.
Learned.
Yeah, exactly, and it is, and it's like with everything, right? Like anyone, obviously we know. I know in football, because that's where I work and stuff. People see like these players and say like, oh, they're young and they're at the top level, and oh, they're so lucky they've just fallen into it. It's like, no, there's a lot of they'll have had rejections. They've worked for it. They've had rejections. They've made sacrifices, and they've had knockbacks. But it's a bit like with social media. Let's say a lot of the time it's people's highlights reels. That's where I'm trying to be different. I know all yourself as well, where you've been quite vulnerable on there.
Yes.
And I think just showing people the reality, like
exactly, that it's not all rainbows and sunshine
all
the time.
No, exactly. Even if things are good, there's always going to be times where it's a bit of a struggle.
Setbacks here and there, but it's still
good. No, it's exciting though, self-employed.
Very exciting.
And in something that you did mention as well, which I'm going to spin back to because I think it's not something that any of my other guests have done or that I know people really like. So living in the van. So is there like this is just my curiosity now really, is there like a set location? So you said you were coming up from Portsmouth, or do you just kind of like, how does that work?
So I have a few kind of like home bases.
Okay.
But I use an app for kind of free park up. So I haven't paid for a single kind of night in the van essentially.
Yeah.
I haven't been to a campsite or anything like that. It's just kind of parking up. There's actually a really nice farm that I park up next to. So it's really nice. Like I wake up to the cows mooing and like the milking machine going off at like 3 a.m. But yeah, it's just been really nice.
Get your milk for your morning coffee.
Exactly.
straight from the cow this morning.
But yeah, again, that is something that I think has desperately, I'll go with it, helped my mindset in that sense. Yeah. Being in nature 24/7, it's so healing and it's so relaxing. Yeah. And it's just one of those things that I've always wanted to do, but again, I've always kind of put it to the side and been like, I'll do that when I have the time or I have the money and things like that. And then again, an opportunity came up where my best friend was selling her van, so she sold it to me. Yeah. And I've been living in it for 9 months now. I think it is just over 9 months. Yeah. So
very cool.
Been really nice.
Like you say, you can go where you want, like kind of in.
Yeah, it's not actually converted at the moment. It literally just has a bed and a table in the back.
Okay.
So I'm like proper roughing van life.
Yeah.
But I'm going to convert it properly, set up a little coffee station in there. It's going to be great.
Is that what you're going to be going around do it like little coffee machine like?
I don't know if I'll have a coffee machine in it, but I'll definitely have like a
your own,
kind of
for yourself kind of more than,
set up in there.
Yeah.
But at the moment it does the job.
Amazing. And obviously saw it when you were coming to visit. I love it. I love just, as you say, just being you, and it's like, you know, what brings you joy, and it seems like it's like kind of changed a lot for you as well.
It's changed massively. Yeah, I think having that kind of freedom, it's different from, like, they say that having a car is like different kind of freedom, but having a van that you live in, it's different.
It's different, yeah, and it's amazing. You can, no limitations.
Exactly. Like the only downfall is that I have bought a really old kind of van, so it's a 2001 T4. So occasionally she has some issues.
Yeah. I mean, it's younger than my car, so I don't know.
Oh, there we go.
But yeah, you know, but then like houses have issues, right?
Exactly.
I'm sure you can have more issues with a house than a van.
Yeah, and it's a lot cheaper to live in a van, so
yeah,
love that.
No mortgage on that.
Exactly.
But no, amazing. So I feel like we're kind of tying up.
Yeah.
There's something I want to ask you. I think I kind of we've maybe touched on it already.
Yeah.
So actually, there's a couple of things I want to ask you.
Yeah.
One of them is something that I have been trying to ask kind of every guest. We'll get onto that at the end. But before that, I want to kind of ask, what does like self-care look like to you?
Ooh, I think it looks different to me kind of every month.
Okay.
It's just kind of based on how I'm feeling, my kind of headspace. Like meditation helps massively. I've also got into like EFT tapping recently. I don't know if you know what that is.
No.
So it's like tapping different pressure points, doing affirmations, things like that. There's some really good EFT tapping online. And I've recently been getting back into the gym because obviously van life, I have to shower somewhere. But
maybe one of the flip sides of
exactly.
having a van.
But yeah, I used to just kind of go into the gym just purely to use the shower, and I've now been like, why am I wasting a membership when I could go in to work out? And even it was yesterday, I kind of had like this pivotal moment of working out the body and the mind at the same time. I'd been trying to remember my gym code for like the last 9 months.
Yeah.
Spent half an hour on a treadmill and I'd got it down.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, that time to just kind of process.
Yeah. But yeah, self-care. I do a lot of journaling.
Yeah, we touched on,
So journaling is a very big part of my self-care every month. But yeah, every month it can kind of look different. But just having time, I think, like having a work-life balance is kind of very key to my mental health, especially.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, amazing. No, yeah, I can, and there's certainly things I can relate to there. Definitely the time and how it changes with different times. I think that's really important as well, because I think there'll be some people maybe listening or watching, like thinking they need to find a specific thing that they do, or maybe if they, just because something's worked one time doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna always be the case.
Exactly, and it's different for every person. Like you've got to try. Trial and error, basically, with self-care.
Exactly. And actually, there's a lot of things people will do, and it will be self-care, but you just don't label it self-care.
Yeah.
I think I spoke to James, so Farm Boy Barista, who I think you said we both met for the first time at London Coffee Festival. Managed to avoid each other, but
I know.
But and where he said, and a lot of people will be able to relate to this, the actual process of brewing coffee, making coffee. You've touched on latte art as well. Just maybe you wouldn't label it self-care, but it's something that if you're doing it for yourself and it brings you joy, then that. Just making sure you're putting time for yourself in your day. And work-life balance is one I'm not the best at. I'm very, very, very aware of that. And it's something that I do struggle with. And like I was saying about my mind just doesn't switch off. Yeah. And if I'm not thinking about something, for some reason my mind decides the first thing it wants to think about is work. And what could you be doing? What are you going to do next week? What are you going to do this? So, but that's cool. Thank you. And last question then, just to finish up, is what does happiness mean to you?
Oh, I think, that's a thinker. I think happiness to me is being able to smile is a big thing. I think smiling, even if you have to force it, it will generally make you happier to smile.
Yeah.
But also just being surrounded by like-minded people, living your true, authentic self, and letting go of others' opinions of you. I think that was a big block in my happiness, was I cared about what people thought of me, whereas now I don't, and I am so much happier for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, just living your authentic self, I think.
Amazing.
That's what happiness means to me.
Perfect. No, what a way to finish.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Jass.
Thank you so
for coming on.
much.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this latest episode of Flat Whites and Insights, and I really hope you gained something from that conversation. I know I certainly did. It would mean a lot if you can like and subscribe on whatever platform you may be watching or listening on, but also if you head over to Instagram and give me a follow at Cappuccino. This is the best place to contact me, but also see the latest developments on the platform as we look to increase awareness of mental health through my passions for coffee and football. In addition, if you've heard something that you can relate to or you want to talk about a little bit more, feel free to message me on that platform. But also, if you fancy coming on yourself and having a conversation, then do let me know, because I'm always keen to connect with new people and get insights into other areas and other passions and other challenges that I might have no experience of myself. Thanks again, and I really hope you tune in for the next episode. Take care of yourselves. I've been Hans. Thank you.